I'm Andrew.
I'm Steven.
I'm Andrew. He's Steven.
And he's Andrew.
We're Steven and Andrew.
Together, we comprise the duo of Andrew and Steven.
But you may know us better as...
Stranversavno.
I was going to say, please won't you be my podcast.
Oh,
actually, I was going to say, stop podcasting yourself, because I was confused.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? I've always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you.
Well, it's an inconveniently beautiful day in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood.
And it's about what you'd expect for the end of October in our neighborhood.
We sort of forgot about our Halloween episode that we were building up towards.
I mean, I feel like we weren't really building that up towards it.
No, it just wasn't in the Mr. Rogers cards, was it?
No, it wasn't a very scary episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and neither is this one. But that's okay, because now we're on our Christmas build-up.
Sure.
8
Although we
Christmas
are
episodes.
recording this on a Halloween night.
Right, so this podcast is going to come out cursed.
Who knows what sort of... We haven't had any people come to the door, so we got candy to eat, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's 6:45 on a school night.
Uh-huh.
I think we're getting all those Twizzlers ourselves.
Well, this is a great early November themed podcast already, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Happy American Thanksgiving, everybody.
Mr. Rogers. He's
He's got a flashlight.
he's got real ambitions.
He is thrilled about this flashlight. He's very excited about it.
He's got high ambitions to be Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Yeah, I don't know if Bill Nye's on TV yet, but...
It's not looking good for him.
No. So he's got this flash. He's shining it on his hand as he walks in. He's very excited.
Uh-huh.
Shines it at the camera before he turns it off.
As he was bringing it in, I'm like, this must be for rainbows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty quick. I was like, oh, they're going to do a rainbow. Okay.
But he comes in, he takes off his jacket, and instead of a sweater, he puts on a lab coat.
Yeah, he is excited.
He is very serious. He's like,
he is really excited.
I'm going to teach these kids some science.
Yeah. And he sits down and he says, I thought it would be fun to try to make a rainbow today. Much more casual than King Friday with his, hey, do you know how to make it rain? He's just sort of like playing it off. I thought it might be fun to make a rainbow today.
He says, I have an idea about something.
Right.
And then he kind of outlines his master plan. He says, I'm thinking I'll take this flashlight and I'll shine it through some spray. Like I'll get
spray some water.
Spray bottle.
Make a rainbow.
So we head over to the
kitchen.
I was going to say laboratory, but yeah, it's
his kitchen.
Just his kitchen.
Just his kitchen.
We see him pull out a spray bottle. He fills it with water. We get to watch that whole thing as it kind of spills over the edge of the cap.
Yeah, he does it about as well as anybody ever has.
Yeah.
I would have just turned the tap. I feel like he's got the tap on too hard.
Maybe.
Just turn it down.
He was in a hurry, though. He doesn't want to drag this on too long.
Yeah. He says, I hope it works, which I know I wrote down because I'm like, yeah, I hope it works.
Yeah, because
This show would be real weird if it didn't work.
I don't think I've ever seen someone shine a flashlight through just a spritz of water.
I think it would work. I've seen rainbows like watering a car on a sunny day.
Yeah,
so I think the theory here is sound.
I guess, but I'm like, I don't know about this, Mr. Rogers. And he just starts spritzing it and shining it. He's like, there, you can kind of see it, right? Can you see? There is kind of I can sort of see some, and then he eventually gets frustrated and says, I'm sorry, I thought this was going to work.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't work. It's incredible.
It's a bust.
It's a real bait and switch.
And I was like, did they not test this before the camera started rolling?
I mean, if they didn't, that's some incredible ad-libbing on his part. I'm going to say this is probably in the script, though.
No, but at first, it definitely feels like, this was something that worked in rehearsal, but isn't working now that they have the stage lights on.
Surely you rehearse with the stage lights. You don't get 1,800 episodes.
Listen, I don't know. All I know is it didn't work.
I mean, that's true. It didn't work. So Mr. Rogers is getting annoyed. He says, well, maybe I'll call Mr. McFeely. He knows a lot of stuff about stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. Not a character trait I had picked up about Mr. McPhee. I mean, I guess
No.
in retrospect, he sure does seem to have a varied knowledge on a variety of topics. So he calls Mr. McFeely.
Yeah, and we sort of hear half of the conversation.
Yeah.
Something about gold, and
Something
Mr.
about
Abel's not going to be here for a while.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, yeah, Mr. McFeely has an idea about how to make a rainbow, though.
He does.
Yeah, and he says, oh, great, could you bring that over right now? He's like, oh, you can't. No. And I think he says, well, this day's really not turning out so great so far.
Yeah, and then he's just mad because
he's so mad that he not exactly slams the phone down, but he hangs up pretty hard and jumps right into a song about being mad.
Now, I think this is interesting.
It's the most impulsive emotion I think we've had from Mr. Rogers.
I think it's interesting because they wanted, I guess, to incorporate anger as an emotion into this episode, and they're like, what would make Mr. Rogers angry? Well, I guess he would probably be angry if his children's show fell apart at the seams.
Yeah, it's a little bit meta.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I feel like usually he'd be like, he talks about being mad, and then he sings the song. Uh-huh. This time is just straight in, what do you do when you're mad?
What do you do with the mad you feel?
Right. Well, I was doing a little help
in this case, mad is a noun.
Right. So he sings that song about how mad he is. And then I sort of got distracted by Twitter for a bit.
Oh, boy.
And then it came into the end of the song, and he's talking about how a girl can someday be a woman, and a boy will someday be a man.
Yeah, he just likes to...
And I was like, sorry, what? Where did we...
No,
weren't we talking about being mad earlier?
Just, I guess that's an important part of growing up is dealing with anger.
I guess. But I mean, Mr. Rogers is an adult and he's not dealing with it particularly well.
No, he is. He's singing
is, yeah. He's singing a song.
He's telling us that he's mad.
One of the ways he suggests dealing with anger is getting a bunch of friends together and playing tag.
Does he say that?
Yeah.
That's going to turn into a fist fight.
That seems like a dangerous combination if you're really mad.
The way he decides to get his anger out is by art. He's getting his anger out through art. But he decides to color a rainbow, which I don't know if that's really when you're angry about not being able to make a rainbow. I don't know if angrily coloring a rainbow is really... For
a second, when he went to the closet to get the paper, I thought he was just going to take the lab coat off, which is what I would do if I was mad, and be like, I don't want to think about this now. This is very embarrassing.
He just keeps wearing the lab coat for the whole episode, though.
Yeah, I mean, he colors the rainbow very aggressively.
He does.
He really goes to town on that rainbow. He says,
I don't know if a rainbow though is really a subject matter for angry emotions.
I mean, maybe that's the trick though. You draw something aggressively, but which when you're done makes you feel calm and happy.
Maybe.
I think it depends who you are. If you're Mr. Rogers, that's probably one of the things he says is it's really scary when you're angry, which is a very terrifying sentiment.
It's like a Bruce Banner thing.
Yeah, he's like, it's scary when you're angry, feeling like you can't stop. And I'm like, man, Mr. Rogers, that's some heavy stuff.
Very Bruce Banner.
Yeah. It is. I mean, I don't know that I've been angry. I don't know that I've ever been scared that I would always be thus. That is.
I mean, if you're a television show host and you're angry right before you're supposed to start filming, you can be worried that you'll still be angry when the cameras are rolling.
I guess, yeah.
Because you got to be in the right headspace for it.
Yeah. Like that real edgy Robin Williams movie about children's shows.
We're diving deep into the struggles of a children's show host in this episode. Mr. Rogers, as he's coloring the rainbow, he's just got it like... He has a large pad of paper resting on a very small... artist's bench, and I'm wondering where did he put his easel that he had a few days ago?
He didn't want to set it up. He was mad.
I guess.
Was it even an artist's bench, or was it just like a?
It looked like a stool, but the stool was connected to like a artist's toolboxy thing.
Oh, okay. Another thing Mr. Rogers likes to do when he's mad
is pretend.
So let's pretend.
Not about anything angry, just
about the land. So he grabs the castle off the shelf.
And then he
sticks some Post-it notes on it in a nice bit of set design or whatever.
Yeah, we were pretending that those were all of the drawings from everyone that's produced art for the art contest.
And then we imagine up an ending to the art contest.
Well, let's imagine our way to the land of make-believe.
Yeah.
Well, we've made it to the land of make-believe, and there's just drawings everywhere.
All about the place.
Just so many.
There's some over on the tree, even. We think we started at the castle, we just sort of pan straight across to Lady Elaine, don't we?
Yeah, we pan across and look at all the art everywhere.
Yeah. Prince Tuesday's 3 letters is right front and center.
Front and center, yeah. He's
ineligible from winning, but not from preferential placement.
Yeah, precisely. We pan over to Lady Elaine and Neighbor Aber.
Yeah. Well, first it's just Lady Elaine. She's dancing and singing her song about how she's going to win.
All of the gold in the world.
Yeah.
And then
Neighbor Aber shows up with a device to attach to the plane car. So is he still an employee?
Yeah, I think this must be very close to, if not the first 2 weeks of Neighbor Aber's run on
maybe
Mr.
this
Rogers.
is his first Land of Make-Believe appearance.
It's also his first, as we will encounter later, his first appearance in reality world of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, because he introduces himself to Mr. Rogers and Mr. Rogers.
I guess I just thought that he had been credited in previous episodes. But yeah, because it seems like he's still working for Aaron Land Vehicle.
Yeah, in this episode
company.
they start calling it his company, and I'm like, isn't he just a?
Oh, do they say his company?
They say, wow, your company produces a lot of great things.
Oh, well, yeah, he works for the company.
Yeah, I know, but he's suddenly the main representative.
Yeah.
Before he was just the clown delivery man, now he's
worked his way up from the mailroom.
Yeah.
I mean, except he's still just doing deliveries.
And operating the plane car.
He did that the first time around, too.
Installing machines.
He knows he does, yeah, I mean, full service delivery. He knows he doesn't have to dress like a clown because they're cool about it in the Land of Make-Believe.
He probably takes it off once he gets there.
Yeah, because it's easier than explaining to management why he's not wearing the uniform.
Lady Elaine is still convinced she's going to win.
Yeah.
We get to see her art finally. She's just kind of painted onto a boomerang.
Yeah, she's painted onto... That's how she's done art that moves.
Yeah, you throw it and it moves, which is true of most art.
Yeah.
Except like graffiti.
And she's painted... On one side, she's painted her face.
Although graffiti is called a throw-up sometimes.
That's true.
So
that's true.
So you can throw all kinds of art.
Yeah, on one side of this boomerang, she has painted her face.
Yep.
And on the obverse side,
okay,
some coin collecting terminology for you,
sure.
She's painted her museum go round, which is very Lady Elaine.
Yes. Her neighborhood consists of herself and her house.
Yes. And nothing else. She talks about how she's going to win. She's going to win all the gold in the world. And Neighbor Aber sort of questions her on that.
Mm-hmm.
Or I think he's just Mr. Aber. I don't know that he's been called a neighbor yet. But he questions her on that, and she says, well, King Friday said the prize would be lots of colors, so I think it's going to be all the gold in the world. Kind of skating over the fact that traditionally when one thinks of gold, they do not think of something very colorful.
No, they think of one color.
Yeah.
And that color being gold, which isn't really a color, it's a metal.
Right. That has become a color.
It's more of a material quality.
Yeah. Yeah. And as we'll see later, this is an accurate description of gold, it turns out.
Mm-hmm. Guess it's time to go over to the castle where King Friday is still frantically negotiating with Neighbor Aber on how we might get a rainbow.
Yeah, so Aber's got the device that he's going to
install onto the plane car to make rain.
Hopefully. Thereafter a rainbow. And barring that, he's got a backup plan, which he is...
An unnamed backup plan.
Yeah, plan B. So he goes out back, takes the remote to install the plane car.
King Friday, although it is very apparent that his plan is for the prize to be a rainbow, is still acting very coy about it and referring to it. He says to Mr. Aber, he says, it's the bow from the rain that I'm after, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Aber had heard that from his source.
From his source, yeah. Very hush-hush, all of this.
Yeah, this is all very covert under the table.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes to install that. Lady Aberlin shows up with a box full of drawings.
Yeah, and she says, King Friday, I know you're really interested in figuring out this prize, but how are we going to have time to look at all these other contestants' drawings, which never gets resolved?
No, they never do.
She has a big box of drawings, and then someone else approaches with another box of drawings, I think.
Handyman
Negri, it's a
comes
second
by with
box.
the second box of drawings.
But King Friday, without looking at those, has already picked the winner.
I mean, from what I've seen, probably correctly, but
not a lot of competition.
As Lady Aberlin and King Friday are talking, Lady Lane throws her entry into the box.
Oh, I didn't notice
from a
that.
distance. Oh no, she like throws it in, and they like, and then Lady Lane pops up, and she's like, "It's art that moves."
Yes, right.
And then King Friday has a great line where he says, "You frightened us, fair child."
King Friday, I think, just spends the entire episode filibustering until his prize.
And being annoyed at Lady Lane.
Yes, that's true too. So he's ready to see if the prize is ready, and we kind of pan up to the sky where the electric plane car is just flying circles with a giant shower head spinning around.
Yeah, sort of a thing on it that is supposed to make rain, but does not.
No, it does not work.
Yeah. Lady Elaine, also part of the reason she pops up is to complain about this rain that King Friday is apparently trying to make, because she doesn't want it.
Right, she doesn't want it raining.
Why
on
would
her
anyone
gold
want rain?
parade.
Yeah. Unless it's raining gold, she says. Neighbor Aber comes back and says, yeah, the plane car, no rain is happening.
Right.
King Friday says, well, maybe you better go work on plan B. And he's like, yeah, all right, I'll do that. And then King Friday asks if he's ready, and he says he is, which
is not true.
I guess he's as ready as he can be. And he says, yeah, you better announce the winner. So King Friday announces the winner. It's Anna Platypus, like we guessed.
Right.
Because she put people in it.
Yeah.
And Lady Elaine, as she points out, also put people in it, but just herself.
Yes, one people.
One people, one building, on a boomerang. It's a nice drawing. If she'd put the effort in to capture everybody, that might have been worth something. I mean, probably the kid's still going to beat the artist who's an adult. I guess Lady Elaine's an adult.
As they're chatting about the winner, the camera kind of zooms out, and in the very close foreground comes into focus Neighbor Aber off by himself, looking very stressed.
Yeah, and concentrating super hard. And what's he saying?
He's mumbling to himself, I think I can. So I guess his plan B is maybe I can will a rainbow into existence.
Yeah, he's just trying to imagine a rainbow real hard.
Yeah, which, as we find out, is his plan B.
Just to imagine the rainbow real hard, because it's the land of make-believe, so that should work.
Which it does.
Yeah. Interesting that it took a relative outsider to come up with this plan.
Yeah.
Surely King Friday is familiar with the metaphysics of the land of make-believe.
I mean, when I saw him trying to will a rainbow into existence, I wasn't convinced that it would work. I thought he just didn't really have a plan B. And that's because the people in the land of make-believe don't really act in such a way as to reinforce that you can just imagine anything that's real.
At no point, Lady Elaine could have imagined up all the gold in the world.
Yeah.
At any point.
Or any contestant could have imagined or pretended that their drawing was the best.
Yeah, I mean, that's getting into some heavy stuff. I think it is one thing to produce objects, it is another thing to alter the behavior of another sentient being.
Well, and if everybody's...
Because then you're looking at a contest, that's a will save or something.
And if everybody is pretending that they're the best artist, it's just, where does it stop?
Exactly. But, I mean, manifesting rainbows and material objects, that should be trivial in the land of make-believe.
But Neighbor Aber is successful after wincing and stressing. A rainbow does start to appear in the sky. A very impressive one.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, if you can just do this, what is the function of Corny's factory?
I guess it's easier than... I mean, it's a very small factory that produces a lot, so the real question is this the mechanism of Corny's factory? And the answer is yes, because this is an imagination-based reality.
I suppose.
We get a big wide shot of the land of make-believe.
Yeah, we zoom out farther than we've ever...
Farther than it is clearly possible to zoom out.
It seems to be in more of a straight line than the circle that I had thought it was.
Yeah.
Do you think they've unwrapped this net of a town into a flat plane? Or do you think that's how it's laid out? it would make sense for it to be in a line because as far as cameras go, you don't really want to have a cameraman in the center.
I think it would make sense for it to be in a circle because then you are sort of panning around rather than tracking around.
Anyways, everyone is very impressed that Neighbor Aber was able to
imagine up a rainbow.
Even though it's sunny.
Rainbow. Yeah.
Turns out, why was King Friday even... Does he just lack the imagination sufficient to imagine a rainbow?
And if so, how did he become the king?
Maybe that's what all of his imagination powers are constantly focused on, is maintaining his rule.
Yeah, that's the thing about monarchies. They're not meritocracies.
So Lady Elaine is like, oh, who cares about a rainbow? But if there is a rainbow, maybe there's gold at the end of it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go look and see if I can...
Yeah.
She doesn't really learn a lesson.
No.
In this.
No.
She's just like... This isn't what I wanted, but maybe there's gold at the end of this rainbow.
I am forced to assume, sort of based on everything we've seen today with Neighbor Aber imagining up a rainbow, that she will find this gold.
I guess if she thinks it's there.
Yeah, if she believes it's there hard enough, I can only assume she will find it.
What do you think Lady Elaine wants to do with all the gold in the world?
I think probably just, like, roll around in it.
Maybe like Scrooge McDuck?
Yeah, or like stack it up into a fort and live in it and then peek out from behind it and show it off and stand on a tower of it and brag about how great it is. Mm-hmm. You know, Lady Elaine stuff. Then she'll put it all in a gold exhibit in the gold room.
Yeah.
Lady Elaine's living her best life.
Anything else happen in the land of make-believe?
No.
Not really.
Not really.
So the trolley takes us away.
Yep. He's excited to see the rainbow.
Is he?
Yeah, because Lady Aberlin says to him, yeah, it's still here, trolley.
Can trolleys see color?
Apparently.
How do trolleys see?
Do trolleys dream of tram sheep?
Okay, well, here we are back in reality.
Here we are back in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood.
He's got a tiny trolley. I guess that's what it seemed so real when we were in make-believe, but now that we're here in reality, it's just a tiny toy trolley.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Rogers kind of talks about how, boy, Lady Elaine, really disappointing as a person. All she cares about is gold, gold, gold.
Yeah.
And all Mr. Rogers cares about is gold, gold, gold.
Let's learn how gold is processed.
We go over to picture and
take a little tour inside a gold factory.
We've got some stock footage of a gold processing plant.
Some cool mine carts.
Sure.
I've written down in my notes here, cool mine cart. Always excited to see a mine cart. I don't know why, but
Donkey Kong
speaks to me on some level. This isn't even like Donkey Kong. It's like a train of them, and they tip over and dump the dirt out, and it's like dark but lit by a spotlight. I don't know. Mines are neat.
Yeah, it's a pretty short little video.
It's pretty short, and the rest of it's pretty boring.
Yeah, gold is made how you expect it to be made.
They melt it. They put it in a mold for gold, as Mr. Rogers is thrilled to point out.
Yeah, that rhyme.
Yeah, and apparently it is pressed into what I would call ingots, but which is apparently called a good delivery bar.
I love that they are called good delivery bars.
That's a good line. I wish I'd looked it up to verify that Mr. Rogers wasn't just leading us on.
I did look it up. He was not just leading us on.
Right.
Gold bars are actually called good delivery bars.
Why is there not a chocolate bar company that is making good delivery bars? That's a great name for a chocolate bar.
Suddenly, Mr. McFeely is at the door.
Knock, knock, knock. Who's that? It's Mr. McFeely. He's at the door. He's brought a friend along.
It's Chuck Aber.
It's Guard Aber.
It's the alternate reality version of... I mean, it's the reality version of...
He got 2 jobs, man. 2 jobs, like the gum commercial.
Yeah.
That'll be a weird one for the Tumblr if we can find it.
Yeah, he's a guard, I guess, in reality.
Yeah.
He does not work at a Aaron Land vehicle clown delivery service.
Yeah, for...
a bank.
Maybe.
He says a bank.
Well, he says he's bringing the gold back to the bank, but he's only ever done... I kind of wonder if he's just an all-purpose guard for things.
Mr. McFeely has brought him in order to show real gold to Mr. Rogers.
He's got a briefcase full of gold. He pulls out a little bag, which has little strips of gold, which are used in the repairing of jewelry.
4 different colors of
4 different colors of gold. I don't know what they look like in real life, but on camera, they all look basically identical.
Which, Mr. Rogers says, in reality, they all look basically identical.
Yeah. So this whole...
You need to be a real Scrooge McDuck to tell the difference, I think.
Yeah. So do you think whoever wrote the script had seen the different colors of gold before they said, oh, gold's different colors, this still holds up? Like, how hard would it have been? I guess you need the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. How hard would it have been, though, to just have Lady Aberlin... How hard would it have been to just want Lady Elaine Fairchild to want jewels, which are famously all different colors? I guess then you'd have to find a stock footage video about how jewels are made.
Neighbor Aber, as he's showing these gold, and he also shows Mr. Rogers a good delivery bar.
Yeah.
I noticed that the way he pronounces the words gold and hold, he says gold and hold. Like he can't pronounce L's, but he does pronounce L's in like the word yellow.
That's interesting.
It's just his accent, I guess. He says gold and hold.
Also, green is apparently a color of gold. That's weird.
That's why you say, "Give me some green." You're talking about?
No, you're not. You're talking about you don't know anything about money.
We need money.
How many rocks for a lion skin? How many skins for a boar?
You need a lot of rocks to get a lion skin. Like, I killed a lion. You better have found a lot of rocks.
I mean, really, those rocks are sort of the... Yeah, I don't think it's rocks. I just don't remember the lyrics to the song.
You don't think it actually goes...
Yeah.
How many rocks for
Look
a lion
for that
skin?
one on the Tumblr.
1,000,000 rocks for one lion skin. I do wonder how many good delivery bars is worth a lion.
Whoa.
Mr. Rogers is holding 6 pounds of a good delivery bar.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Aber hands it to him and says, now this is very light. Feel this bag of little strips of gold. And says, now this is much heavier if you take that. And Mr. Rogers takes it and really oversells how heavy it is.
He kind of hams it up.
Yeah. Like, imagine a clown pretending a balloon is very heavy. That old saw of clown jokes.
Yeah.
Mr. Rogers basically does that, where he takes it and immediately drops his hand.
Oh, that is heavy.
But not quite so immediately that I believe he was that surprised by how heavy it was.
No. He does ask Guard Aber if he found it at the end of a rainbow. And Guard Aber's like, Mr. Rogers, I don't think that's really true. I mean, I'm not sure it's not true, but I think that's just mythology.
Yeah. I just got it from the bank.
Where I guard it.
Yeah.
And Mr. Rogers says it's fun to make up stories about things like this.
Yeah.
And Guard Aber says, yeah, I've made up a lot of stories about things I've guarded.
Yeah, see, this is what makes me think that he's just sort of a freelance all-purpose guard instead of a bank guard.
Who isn't told or why he's guarding.
Look, it's not his job to ask questions. It's just his job to guard it.
So he makes up stories for himself.
Yeah, if he was just a bank guard, like, that's 1 or 2 stories you're telling tops.
Mm-hmm.
Where did this gold come from? Where did this money come from? That's it. Like, maybe if you get safety deposit box detail, but I don't think you're supposed to look inside and see what's in the safety deposit boxes.
How can you guard something properly if you don't even know what it is?
I mean, that's a good line for a movie about a band of mercenaries required to guard something that they don't know what it is. Spoilers, it's probably cursed.
Get out of here, Guard Aber.
Yeah, bye, Guard Aber. Hang around, though, Mr. McFeely. We're gonna make some rainbows.
Yeah, he, now, does he bring the projector?
No, Mr. Rogers said he had a projector, and sure enough, he does in the closet.
And he already has a projector screen. I guess all Mr.
Well, it's not even a projector screen. It's a bit of
pad
paper.
Of paper, yeah.
And also, the paper largely unnecessary for the...
Yeah, as we will soon
trick.
Find out. So does...
the fridge suffices.
Does Mr. McFeely... Does he bring the prism?
Yeah, he has the prism.
Okay.
That's the value add.
Gotcha.
1 prism. Because Mr. Rogers even has the blocks that they need to
prop up the projector.
Which seemed fine where it was, in retrospect.
There was a bit of a chair in the way, maybe.
Maybe. But I mean...
Top of a chair.
Move the chair.
I guess so.
Don't get out 9 blocks and prop the projector up 6 and the blocks up 3. And
what Andrew's describing is exactly what the characters proceed to do as they set up the projector and get our rainbow ready.
And put a prism right in front of it.
But we have to turn out the lights. So Mr. McFeely goes over to the wall where apparently the light switch is, which he announces loudly. All right, I'm turning off the light. Dramatic hand motion. And the lights go off.
The lights fade.
Yeah. And then they shine the projector through a prism.
And sure enough, there's a rainbow.
And it's shining on the fridge. And then Mr. Rogers like, I guess I'll grab the notepad.
Yeah.
But it's already shining on the fridge. We already see a rainbow.
Yeah, but this allows him to sort of move it around and look at it more easily.
I suppose so.
It affected in ways. Mr. McFeely explains that imagine this prism is a single drop of rain. So we do actually learn some science.
I guess.
I mean, I already knew that. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, because we watch other children's shows, not just Mr. Rogers.
Mm-hmm. Although typically rainbows are not made by a single drop of rain, but by many. And more of mist than...
I mean, that's true.
Than formed falling
But
rainbows.
how many prisms do you want Mr. McFeely to bring?
Millions.
There's not room in Mr.
How many
Rogers'
prisms
house.
for a lion skin? That's all I want to know.
How many sheep for a ox?
Animals like trading cards.
We need money. Some stable form of money.
I mean, if you're trading sheep for ox, that's a stable form of money. Stable.
Hey,
All
boo
right. Hooray! We got our rainbow.
We got our rainbow. We sang a song from a Scrooge McDuck cartoon about economy.
Are we summarizing the episode or our episode? Because that'll get confusing fast.
That's true. I mean, I run out of notes, so it doesn't really matter to me.
Mr. Rogers is like, great, all right, and
bye.
Yeah, Mr. McFeely is like, okay, well, I guess I better go. I'll leave these things here for you to experiment. And I'm like, we're kind of done.
We're kind of done.
We've used. You can clean up and take. He's like, I'll stop back someday to collect them, and like
the prism, like just pop that in your pocket if you want.
That's true.
McFeely. Yeah, because it's not like
he acts like he's leaving the projector and stuff.
Because I thought of this as like, they don't want to have to tear down this set.
But the prism's the only thing he brought.
Yeah, the prism. He could have just pocketed that, and Mr. Rogers could say, "Well, I'll clean that up later."
Mr. Rogers then talks about how, boy, it's a good thing I have friends, or this children's show would have just fallen off the rails. Yeah.
Also, the blocks he used are from the last week with the car.
Mm-hmm. They are probably a recurring prop in the show.
It is a real,
continuity.
Callback heavy week.
Mm-hmm. Got the plane car, got the blocks, got the
Lady Aberlin. She was in last week.
I suppose she's
been in just about every week. I think
it's true. Yeah, I guess that's the end of the episode.
That's the end of the episode. That's the end of the week.
Yeah. What did you think about this week?
It was all right.
We got to learn a lot about art.
I wish we'd seen more drawings of the neighborhood.
Yes, I wish that King Friday had bothered to look at more than just the first 16 entries that.
I mean, I guess we got entries from all of the major players, so to speak.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like there were more entries than there were citizens of make-believe.
Yeah, I mean, they said from all over the world.
That's, from all over. And Big Bird was one of them. So
Big Bird was one of them. But, like, X the Owl didn't make an entry as far as we know.
X the Owl was too busy making welcome signs for Big Bird.
I guess,
He just totally forgot about the whole thing.
Henrietta Pussycat didn't make one. That would have been a psychologically revealing portrait.
She was too busy being neurotic and
it would have been like everybody with their backs turned to her, or everything would just seem enormous
and just like a circle of black cloud around her head.
Yeah. She would have drawn everybody but herself, and like her eyes would have been scratched out.
She would have just drawn. She would have just drawn that one therapy drawing that the therapist tricked Monk into thinking that he had drawn in order to keep him at the insane asylum.
I don't recall that one.
It'll be on the Tumblr. Please won't you be my.tumblr.com.
Your number one source for references to Monk episodes and
that we can't piece together at the moment.
Scrooge McDuck cartoons. For everything that we need to look up later and can be bothered to.
Next week we'll be skipping forward 10 days.
10 whole days. 2 whole weeks.
2 weeks of Mr. Rogers. I looked briefly at some of the episodes that we're skipping.
Oh, yeah?
We're missing out on some good stuff.
Let me tell you.
If we kept going...
Describe them and I will make some flash observations about what I imagine they're like.
If we kept going, Mr. Rogers would bring to his house his own ventriloquism dummy.
Oh, wow. That has a crazy name.
You are aware of Mr. Rogers' Ventriloquism Dummy.
I saw a documentary about it.
Okay, Mr. Rogers' Ventriloquism Dummy, its name is Hisher Boop Trunk.
Right.
That is the name of the dummy.
Yes.
We also
a child named it.
We also would have seen an episode where a child named it. Okay.
Yeah. It was named something else, like whatever was in the catalog or something, and some kid was like, "I don't think it's that. I think its name should be Hisher Boop Trunk." And he said, "Okay," and he rolled with it forever because Mr. Rogers is a man of his word.
We also miss out on an episode where Bob Dog falls off a ladder, which has. When I was looking at this on the Mr. Rogers Neighborhood archive website, the editor of that website spends a good amount of time speculating whether the Bob Dog that falls off of the ladder is a dummy or an actual person, because he thinks it's a person, but also maybe not, because that would be a very painful drop.
It's a real long fall.
And I guess the rest of the episode is talking about whether or not Bob Dog should go to the hospital.
Whoa! Or the veterinarian's office. This is about racism.
Well, I mean, with Bob Dog, I mean, what do you do?
Yeah. I think if a dog can play football, he can go to the hospital.
Sure. But
the Air Bud precedent.
Does a hospital doctor know what to do with
dog parts? There's nothing in the rule books that says a dog can't go to the hospital. Okay. Any other good episodes we're missing?
Those are the only ones that I really remember. We'll be jumping
Hisher
forward.
Boop Trunk and Bob Dog falls off a ladder. Let's say Hisher Boop Trunk one more time.
Hisher Boop Trunk.
Oh, it's so good.
We'll be jumping forward to 1496.
Oh boy. Do we know what happens that week?
It's a year in the future.
Ooh. I thought it was 10 days in the future.
We will be learning all about pets. Our theme song was provided by Mr. Dan Brisbane.
Mr. Dan Brisbane, but I think his name should be Hisher Boop Trunk.
And our trolley transition tune was made by Rindale.
You know what? His name should be Hisher Boop Trunk too. People can have the same name in this world.
For instance, John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt.
His name is my name too.
Incorrect, but I see where you're going. We'll be back when the week is new.
Wow, what will we have?
Ideas?
For who? Me?
Yeah, you.
And you. And you. And you. And you.
Andrew, I know that you'll have things you'll want to talk about.
Like the song Father Abraham. I'll want to talk about that.
Okay. I will prepare myself for that.
I almost tricked you. We were almost going to have a whole Father Abraham the Song podcast.
So let's make the most of this beautiful day. Since we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you please? Won't you please? Please, won't you be my neighbor? Won't you please? Won't you please? Please, won't you be my podcast?
You do know that it's the bow from the rain that I'm looking for, don't you?
I had heard from the source, yes, sire.